All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a piece of literature that completely masquerades as this gentle, innocent nursery rhyme. It's called The Wisdom of the Nesting Sky. But as we're going to show you, structurally, this entire poem is built on a foundation of absolute deception.
That's right. Because on the surface, we're presented with this classic fable aesthetic. You've got a little bird in a nest, you've got the wind, the sky, the talking trees, the whole shebang. But when you really strip all of that away, we are looking at an incredibly stark psychological descent. I mean, this is definitely not a bedtime story. It is a deeply atmospheric, incredibly somber exploration of trauma and cosmic indifference. Ultimately, it's about a helpless child stranded in an uncaring universe, unknowingly seeking out the very thing that led to her abandonment in the first place.
Yeah, and to understand just how quickly this text pivots, we literally just have to look at the opening lines. So it goes, "Soon you will fly," said the mama bird, before she met the sky. Now, structurally, that sets up a totally normal expectation of a lesson, right? A mother teaching her child.
Right. But notice the incredibly chilling reality hidden right there in the phrasing of that second line. Before she met the sky. This isn't a lesson at all, actually. It's a memory. It's the very last thing the mother said before she completely vanished. The author uses this gentle, rhythmic rhyme scheme, and it totally lulls the reader into a false sense of security, completely masking the abrupt, traumatic loss of the mother figure. This chick has been left utterly alone before she even understands what the concept of flight is.
Exactly, and that really establishes the core duality of the text that we'll be looking at. On the surface, sure, it's a young bird preparing to fly. But structurally, the psychological subtext we are mapping out reveals something so much darker. We're looking at a narrative of profound grief and sudden, absolute abandonment.
The fables we typically read offer this nice, protective layer between the child and the actual harsh realities of nature. But here, the author just rips that protective layer away entirely. The chick isn't embarking on some heroic journey of independence. Not at all. She is an orphaned infant, freezing in isolation, totally unequipped to survive the very real, brutal cycle of predation that surrounds her.
Which brings us to the first core theme. Section 1, the tragic motivation, chasing ghosts in the void. So, to understand the immediate aftermath of the mother's disappearance and what exactly is driving this little chick's desire to leave the nest, we really need to redefine a pivotal phrase here, which is met the sky. Structurally, within the specific context of this poem, it operates entirely as a euphemism for death.
Yeah, because her motivation to fly is completely misunderstood if you're only looking at the surface level. It is deeply, deeply rooted in trauma. The mother wasn't just out exploring the world, she was consumed by the wild. She literally fell victim to the cycle of predation. And this is really where the horror of the text sets in. The chick doesn't want to fly because she craves freedom or independence. She wants to fly because that's where her mother went. Her entire pursuit of flight is actually this tragic, desperate chase after a ghost. She's yearning to throw herself into the exact same void that killed her mother.
And we know for a fact this is a blind pursuit because of the very next line in the text. It says, "Fly?" the chick thought, about this unknown word. The concept of flight is just completely alien to her. It really is heartbreaking when you think about it. She is utterly unprepared for survival. She lacks the physical ability, sure, but way more importantly, she completely lacks the maternal guidance needed to navigate this world. The mother vanished before the lesson could even begin. So the chick is just left clinging to this unknown word as her only tether, her only connection to her lost parent, totally unaware of the lethal, mortal danger that word actually represents. Let's move on to Section 2, Fragile Defenses, Silence and Cosmic Indifference. So when sudden traumatic isolation occurs, the psychological response is very often to just invent meaning where there absolutely is none. And here, we're going to see how the chick builds these fragile mental defenses against a reality that is simply way too terrifying for her to process.
Right, and we see this right in the text, where the chick is described as wise, believing with absolute surety in certain things around her. She hears the rustling leaves, the flow of the water, and structurally, she categorizes them as arguments of tree against the river.
She's intellectualizing nature. By personifying the trees and the river, by imagining they're having this active argument, she is projecting human-like connection onto the landscape. It's a textbook fragile trauma response. She's desperately creating this false narrative of a populated, communicative world, just to shield herself from the terrifying reality that she is entirely alone in a massive, indifferent ecosystem. But as you'd expect, that fragile defense completely shatters. She tries to engage with the elements directly, actually asking the wind, "Won't you be tired racing me?" through day and night. And then the text delivers this devastating turn when the wind offered no sound.
This is really the turning point of the entire poem. You have to thoroughly examine how the absence of sound from the wind emphasizes the chick's utter isolation here. That silence is the ultimate undeniable proof of cosmic indifference. She speaks out into the void, seeking a companion, a playmate, literally anything to validate her existence, and she gets absolutely nothing back. The natural world isn't arguing, it's not racing, it doesn't care about her at all. She is entirely, inescapably on her own.
And structurally, that deafening silence forces a brutal shift in perspective. Once that illusion of a friendly, communicative nature falls away, the physical reality finally sets in. Her soft nest appeared too high from the hard ground. Exactly. The wind's silence completely shatters her illusions, abruptly forcing her to confront her incredibly precarious reality. And notice the stark contrast in the language here: soft nest versus hard ground. The soft nest is this lingering memory of maternal warmth, right? But it's now suspended terrifyingly high above a lethal drop. The world is no longer a magical, talking forest. It's a sheer, deadly cliff. Which takes us into Section 3, the predatory sky, nature's malice. So now that the chick is painfully aware of her isolation, she turns to the most imposing entity of all, the big blue sky. But we have to ask this really jarring question. Is the sky actually a mentor, or is it a malicious force? Because the chick, who is now absolutely terrified of the drop, asks the sky, "If I fall, will you catch me mid-flight?" She is literally begging for a safety net.
And let's be clear, the sky is absolutely not a mentor here. The tone darkens so significantly at this point. If we view this through the lens of a dark psychological descent, the sky is a malicious, relentless predator. The sky is the vast, open expanse where her mother met her violent end. It represents the very cycle of predation that orphaned the chick in the first place. The sky doesn't offer any comfort or a catch. Instead, it actively baits this defenseless child.
Right. Let's look at the exact response the sky gives. The sky replied, "If you fear the fall, would you live your life at all?" Now, structurally, that sounds like profound wisdom, doesn't it? It sounds like the kind of inspirational quote you'd see on a motivational poster.
Oh, for sure, but in context, it is a chilling, unbelievably cruel ultimatum. The sky knows this chick has no mother to teach her. The sky knows flight is an unknown word to her. Yet it dares a grieving, untaught chick who is shivering with what the text calls unafraid fright to take a fatal leap. It literally weaponizes her grief and her instinct to live, goading her into the exact same abyss that claimed her mother. It's not wisdom, it is pure predatory manipulation.
And that brings us to our final section. Section 4, the burden of exhaustion, a suspension of endless dread. So, to dismantle the illusion of a happy, peaceful ending, we have to look at how the narrative literally just stops. The text states that the sky continued to speak, but was too slow, because the wise little chick had fallen fast asleep. But we really need to reinterpret this sleep. The surface reading wants you to believe the chick was just tired and went to sleep, safe and sound in her nest. However, the psychological reality paints a far, far more harrowing picture. This is not a peaceful rest. After the sudden trauma of abandonment, the terrifying realization of cosmic silence, and that cruel predatory ultimatum from the sky, the chick has simply broken down. This sleep is a catastrophic psychological and physical shutdown. She is a creature completely crushed by the sheer, exhausting weight of survival in a hostile world. Her nervous system can quite literally no longer process the terror. Which leaves us with this horrific cliffhanger, structurally frozen in time. The chick is asleep in a soft nest that is far, far too high above the hard ground, completely unprotected. And we really have to ask, is she doomed to wake up and face the very abyss that claimed her mother? The true tragedy here is the suspended dread. She hasn't escaped the cycle of predation at all. She's merely paused it through sheer, utter exhaustion. When she wakes up, the silence will still be there. The hard ground will still be there. And that predatory sky will still be waiting, daring her to fall. It's just a masterful, terrifying conclusion wrapped up in a children's rhyme. It leaves us to wonder, when the exhaustion finally breaks, will she step into the void, or will the void simply come for her?